Hey, mom friends! This is Functional Medicine for Moms, where we look at motherhood through the lens of functional medicine. I'm your host, Kelly Moline, a pharmacist with advanced training in functional medicine. From pregnancy and postpartum to everyday parent life, we talk root causes, natural solutions, and real stories from our own family's journey, plus conversations with experts along the way. Hey, mom friends. Welcome to another episode of Functional Medicine for Moms. I am so excited that I have a lactation counselor today. As you know, I've been breastfeeding for the past 9 months. I'm 9 months postpartum, and I've been loving it. It didn't start out super easy for me. As you know, if you've been following along, we actually started in the NICU. So I had the privilege of having many lactation consultants in the hospital and in the NICU, and I've listened to a lot of podcasts myself. I'm a fellow podcast listener, so I hear a lot of podcasts have lactation counselors and consultants on, but I don't hear a lot of like the later months, the 6 to 12 months we're kind of aiming for today. So today I have Amber, who's a certified lactation counselor. So I'm going to introduce her shortly, but I'm so excited to kind of dig into those later months of breastfeeding and the benefit and how it can impact you as the mom and your baby. So we're going to get into it. So today I have Amber McNally. Amber is a CLC certified lactation counselor, infant feeding specialist, homesteader, and fellow Crunchy Mom of 4. Her knowledge and experience expands past breastfeeding and into the introduction of solids, which is exactly where we're at. So I'm so excited to have Amber on today. Welcome, Amber.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, Amber, tell us more about yourself. You said that you're a fellow Crunchy Mom and Mom of 4 and homesteader. So kind of tell me some of your story and what led you to be a certified lactation counselor.
So, when I had my first daughter, I kind of considered breastfeeding, but I was 20 and I did not have a clue about breastfeeding. My mom didn't breastfeed. Nobody in my family that I knew of breastfed, and so I kind of mentioned it in the hospital, and a lactation consultant came and she talked to me and she told me that my breasts were not big enough to breastfeed and I should just stick to formula. If I wanted to pump, I could pump and I would probably get some milk, but it would never be enough to feed my baby. And so I started half-heartedly pumping, and I was feeding her the milk and she was growing, but I had in the back of my head the whole time that it was just never going to be enough, that she needed the formula too. So we ended up quitting. And then my second son was born a little early. He was 35 weeks. And so he needed some help breathing. And they told me kind of the opposite, that breast milk was the best thing for him. And that if I could get him the breast milk and we could feed it through his NG tube, that he would thrive. So I started pumping. But again, there wasn't any more guidance. And I was using a gigantic flange. And my milk output was just not desired. So I ended up figuring that out on my own, and we got me an oversupply because I was pumping. And so I had enough milk stored at 6 months to breastfeed him or to give him it in a bottle until he was a year old. So that was great. And from then on, I knew I could make the milk, and I kept breastfeeding my second 2 kids, and I'm 13 months just about postpartum now, and we're still breastfeeding because cold and flu season is here.
Yeah, it really affects the immune system, and those antibodies in the breast milk can really be supportive, right? There's more to the body and the immune system than just vaccines and that type of thing, right? And a lot of us crunchy moms tend to go more the natural route anyway. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear from you, and you're breastfeeding now still 13 months afterwards, which is incredible. Such an accomplishment. I
Yeah.
know I feel like the goal right away is, okay, I just want to be able to breastfeed. And then it's, I want to be able to breastfeed for the first few weeks. And then it ends up being like a 6 month goal and then a 12-month goal. And I don't hear a lot of people have a goal after the 12 months. And I think a lot of the guidance that I hear is the nutrition from breast milk is their sole nutrition up until 12 months. And then 12 months, there's this magic shift where now food is their sole nutrition, like overnight. And then milk is like, oh, if you want to, you can. But they actually still recommend you breastfeed until 2. And I think a lot of people don't realize that either. And so I told my husband that, and he was like, wait, really? Like they're talking and can still breastfeed? I'm like, yeah, actually, that is a recommendation. We just don't talk about it a lot. So, can you first explain the difference between breast milk and formula? I think a lot of people hear breast is best, and then we also hear fed is best. And obviously, we need to take into account like what the mom can do and like the mom's well-being as well, because we need to have a happy, healthy mom to be able to even take care of a child. But just like even a sciencey perspective, can you explain the difference between the milk and the formula?
Yes, and this is something I'm super passionate about. So the term that fed is best is kind of an insult to breastfeeding moms, right? Like fed is the bare minimum. If you don't feed your baby, your baby's not going to grow. It's not going to thrive. It's going to failure to thrive. So formula has no living organisms in it. There's no antibodies in it. That fancy writing on the front of the can that says closest to breast milk or has DHA for brain health or, supports eye development. None of that is backed by science. It's all a marketing claim, and they
Oh,
can
wow.
get by using it as a marketing claim. And so if you really care about the formula contents, you have to look at the back of the can and read the ingredients. But that $60 can that, use this one because it's closest to breast milk versus that $20 can that is just simple. The ingredients are almost identical and neither one of them are close to breast milk.
Wow.
Breast milk, yeah, breast milk changes minute by minute, hour by hour. If a mom comes in contact with a virus or bacteria and she's not even with the baby, her body starts producing those antibodies so that when she comes back and feeds the baby starts getting those antibodies to protect the baby against what mom was even exposed to. Baby goes to daycare, comes home, and breastfeeds. Mom's breast actually takes in the baby's saliva and analyzes that and starts making antibodies to send back to baby in the milk to protect them against anything they came in contact with. And formula just can't touch that. And it has a place. Formula has a place when you can't make enough milk or you can't make milk at all or, something happened to mom, baby was adopted. Formula has a place. It just doesn't compare to breast milk at the end of the day.
Yeah. I like what you said too about it kind of does insult breastfeeding moms because I do hear, like, I'm so proud of being able to breastfeed, and I know
Yes,
not
it's a
everyone.
huge accomplishment and
Yeah.
sacrifice of time.
Hmm. Yeah, and I was just talking to Landon, to my husband, about, I'm the one getting up at night with her because she nurses to sleep, and he just
Yep.
can't really do that right now. And when she gets older and she wants to be comforted, like nursing is more than just like nutrition. It's also comforting and all these things.
Yep.
It supports our bond, is what I've been hearing, right? And so, like, to be able to do that is amazing, but it also is so much time. And, I'm thinking about my nutrition constantly. I'm getting up multiple times at night.
Yep.
I'm thinking about my workouts, and I can't necessarily like work out too strenuous at times, especially when my like milk supply was coming in. And, when I wake up in the morning or even throughout the night, if she does have a long span of sleep, now I'm uncomfortable. I can have like some of that engorgement. Like it's not just the 30 minutes while
Yep.
I'm breastfeeding her. It's like throughout the whole day, throughout the past 9 months, it's always in the back of my mind. Somehow I went on a girls trip and I was pumping every 3 hours throughout the day to just keep up. And so, yeah, it's a
Yep.
lot. Those breastfeeding moms out there, like I see you, the pumping moms, it's a challenge. I get it. With I do have a question on the like pumping versus breastfeeding specifically. I know milk is fantastic regardless if you're able when you're able to create it. With the antibodies, and let's say you're exclusively pumping, how does the baby get the antibodies if they're not having that like specific nipple contact?
So mom is still going to come in contact with anything baby was exposed to because you're always picking up your baby, right? You're loving on baby, you're kissing baby, you're interacting with baby, holding baby close to you, and you're getting all of those germs and anything else baby came in contact. It's just a little bit of a slower response for your body. It doesn't start within minutes of baby at breast, right?
Okay. I've always wondered that. So thank you for
So
explaining that.
pumping moms are doing just as well.
Yeah.
I've been there. I only pumped for my with my first two, and I also wondered that. So when I started this course, that was one of the first questions that I asked in class.
Fantastic. Yeah, no, when I've, like I said, been gone for a few days or the first few weeks in the NICU, I had to exclusively pump, and it's such a time constraint. And like you're pumping and then giving them a bottle, so it's even more time, and then you're doing
And then you have
dishes.
to walk
So,
well.
yeah. So I'm just like, for the pumping moms out there, you're a godsend because
Yeah.
that is a lot.
We
And
can make that easier though. You don't have to wash your pump parts, especially if your baby's not a preemie, right? But after every pump, right? There's the
yeah,
Ziploc method. And that is a time saver, especially for nursing moms that are going back to work and they're trying to get in quick pumps and pump breaks. If you can put all of your pump parts, rinse them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and put them in a fridge, you can use them again next time. And you can do that all day long and just wash them thoroughly with soap and water at the end of the day.
thank you for sharing that too, because I learned that later, which was good because I did have a
Yeah.
NICU baby. And so she
Yeah.
was a preemie. And so we were washing it every time in the NICU. But later I learned that, I think, on social media. And I was like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, this is going
Yeah.
to save so much time.
It makes such a big difference. Yes,
Yeah.
especially when you're only getting those tiny breaks and you want to get pumped till empty, right? But you also
Mhm.
need to try to figure out how you're going to have enough time to wash and dry parts and where are you going to put them. It's just nice to keep your Ziploc bag and put them in the fridge.
Yep. We want to spend time with babies rather than always doing dishes. And then you need to eat, shower, and sleep. So we have a lot of things to do during the day.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So explain how breast milk changes over time and why that matters for the baby's gut and immune health, especially now that we are months into this process.
Yeah. So breast milk protects the gut's lining and it keeps the gut pretty well neutral. So it helps the baby digest food just in general. There's digestive proteins in breast milk that as it hits the belly, it starts breaking down. And that's why breastfed babies kind of their poop is different, right? Their poop is way different than a formula fed baby's. It's different in color, it's different in smell. It almost smells sweet, but it's because their stomach isn't super acidic, where formula kind of makes your belly upset. And you get more of that gassiness with formula than with breastfed babies, obviously, as long as breastfed babies don't have like a milk allergy.
Sure. Interesting. I didn't know the acidity part. I have heard that their poop is different, and I've been fortunate enough to just be able to do my milk. So I've never had to do the formula, but I've heard that. So that's a good, interesting fact. And I love how it adapts like, God intended it to. So can you tell me the
Yep.
role of mom's nutrition, stress, and sleep on supply and quality of milk too?
Yeah, the coolest thing about mom's nutrition is when we've studied in places of famine, that mom's breast milk compared to a mom who's always eaten well from birth until her breastfeeding journeys, their milk is nearly identical.
Wow.
So your body is going to pull from your stores, from your reserves, and it's going to do what it needs to do to make the milk for your baby, which
That's
is
incredible.
super, super cool. So mom sitting there chugging water, you just took a drink, getting that gallon of water in, unless you're dehydrated, it's not going to change your milk output. So some moms sit there and they say, if you drink more water, you'll make more milk. Well, that's true if you're dehydrated. If you need more water, you're going to see that milk input rise or that
Hmm.
milk output rise. But if you didn't need more water, you're just going to be running to the bathroom more.
That honestly makes a
I'm
lot of sense. Because I hear that a
Yep.
lot. When I was trying to get like my milk supply up in the beginning, they were like, drink water, water, you're gonna turn water into gold, right? The liquid gold. And so I was drinking a lot of water, and so I'm like, maybe this is helping, but it kind of correlates to when people come to me through functional medicine and they're like, okay, I'm trying this B12 because I've heard that it can help with energy. I'm like, well, if you're deficient in B12, it's going to help with energy. But if you're
Yeah.
not deficient or if you
Yep.
don't have a methylation issue, then you're just going to be peeing out B vitamins, you know?
Yep. Yes. So your body is amazing and it was made to make milk. And unless you're missing something, which most of us are eating a balanced diet, it's okay if you eat the donuts. You're not giving baby donuts in your milk. Your body's taking out just the good pieces, the pieces that it wants, and it's making the milk the way it's supposed to be. Exactly how your baby needs it to be.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, when it comes to stress, women who breastfeed typically have lower levels of stress. And that's talking like exclusively breastfeeding because you're not worried about going to the store to get formula if you're out. You're not washing bottles. You're not washing pump parts. When baby's crying because they're hungry, you're not listening to baby keep crying while you make a
Mm,
bottle. You're picking baby up and you're putting them to the breast and it's over, right?
hmm.
So that's a huge benefit to breastfeeding. And there's no feeling like you're stuck to the wall, right? When you're pumping, it can feel kind of isolating. You're stuck in one spot, and that can really take a toll on women's mental health. Now, though, there are portable pumps. And when I first started pumping, there were not portable pumps. So that's a nice hack. You can use your portable pump to pump on your way home, or you can use it to pump on your way to the store, and then you're done pumping, and that took one of your times, right? And you have that milk, you can put it in your cooler, and you can use it when baby needs it, whether it's freezing it or sending it to daycare the next day.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
stress can raise cortisol levels, right? So stress and cortisol go hand in hand, and cortisol goes into your breast milk. So in the morning, there's more cortisol in your milk, and that wakes baby up. And at night, there's more melatonin in your milk, and that tells baby it's time to go to sleep. So, moms that are super stressed can sometimes have a baby that is colicky, and I hate that word. But for a lack of better term, colicky. Their baby is fussy, hard to set down, and that's because mom is stressed. And not only is baby picking up on mom's energy, ooh, mom's kind of touchy, so I'm touchy because babies use mom to self regulate. But also, you have to kind of think about that cortisol level in the milk. Not that it's making your milk bad, but it is impacting your baby by giving them a cortisol overload and they get kind of crabby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
No,
stress management is super important, especially as you go back to work and you add on that mental load. A lot of moms notice that their babies are kind of getting a little more testy.
let's jump into that question of do you have advice for the moms going back to work and pumping and how to balance that while still like keeping up and kind of both being in both places in at once in a sense, but being able to still provide that for their baby.
Yeah. So one of the things that when moms come to me about, they've made enough milk the entire time that they breastfed at home or pumped at home, but now they sent their baby to grandma's house or they sent their baby to a daycare, and their baby's suddenly drinking more milk than mom's making, right? And they think it's a supply issue. But the secret is probably grandma's fault or your daycare provider's fault. And not in a bad way, but they don't know the difference between your baby fussing because they're tired or fussing because they're hungry and they're just offering the milk, right? And baby's taking it because nursing is comforting and now they're blowing through milk or they're not pace feeding your baby. So it's super important if you're going back to work to talk with whoever's going to have your kid, so that they know your baby's signs, how your baby responds if they're tired or if they're crabby, because your baby, while away from you, only needs 1 ounce an hour of milk. So if you're planning an 8-hour shift and drive time, say baby's going to be away from you for 10 hours. If I told you you only need to pump 10 ounces of milk while you're away from baby, does that sound super unattainable?
No, I that's kind of what
You
I
don't think
pump
so?
usually around that.
Yeah, which is totally normal. You don't need to feed the freezer. You're trying to feed your baby. So if you can only pump at work enough milk for baby's next day, you have a totally normal supply. You see all of these social media moms that are pumping, 10 ounces at a time, and it's wonderful, but it's not realistic for the majority of the population.
Hmm.
So the best thing you can do is feed baby right before you go to work, if that's an option. If not, get a portable pump and pump on the way to work so that you've already got yourself empty to start your day. And then roughly 3-4 hours later, you're going to pump again. It might be your lunch break or you have a 30-minute break. So pump, put those parts in that bag though. Save yourself the stress of trying to wash them and put them in the fridge. And then a lot of moms pump again, even if there's a shorter gap between their first pump session and their lunch break, just because they're getting it in when they can, right? And then pump on the way home or feed baby as soon as you get baby back.
Hmm.
That's the best thing you can do. But you only need 1 ounce an hour. Breastfed babies are never going to take that 8-ounce bottle of milk. And if they are, it's because something's going on, you know?
Hmm. No, that's so good to know too, because I call myself a just enougher. I don't have an oversupply, but I'm able to thankfully feed my baby. But I do have that like stress in the back of my mind because we are going through milk a little bit faster than I'm pumping at work. So I know that at the end of the day, we're gonna end up running out of milk. Now, thankfully, I'm working 1 to 2 days a week away from the home.
Yeah.
So it isn't too much of an issue right now, but it is stressful at times because of that. But I like the term like you're not feeding the freezer, you're feeding your baby. So like you
Yes.
don't have to
Yeah.
worry about having this huge supply of months and months unless that's your goal for whatever reason. And like some people will pump and then stop pumping because they have enough milk because that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like that. And
And I've
then
done that. I've pumped for 6 weeks super aggressively and then just bottle fed. And this time my goal was to be just enougher because I'm tired of the engorgement and the leaking breasts. It's so much nicer to just feed her on demand and not have to get up beyond what she's sleeping to keep pumping, or I'm soaking our entire bed.
yeah. Yeah, for real. So I think us like just enoughers are like get to be a little bit jealous, especially at the beginning of the oversuppliers, because they're like, how
Yep.
are you making all this milk and you don't have to be stressed about it? But there's like the downsides of each, and you obviously don't want a clogged duct. That can be really painful as well. And then like leaking throughout the night, all of that. They all have a little bit of a downside, but upsides too. So yeah. And then I've heard that like your next pregnancy and after birth, like you make more. Is that true?
Yes, yeah. So with each consecutive pregnancy, your body makes more pathways for milk to go into the breast, right? And so the more pathways, the more milk. And with your breasts having already stretched from one pregnancy, this is not breastfeeding's fault. If you get saggy boobs postpartum, it's not because you breastfed or didn't breastfeed. It's because you got pregnant and your body makes that milk about halfway through your pregnancy. It starts making milk. You get the colostrum.
Huh.
And so it has nothing to do with breastfeeding. You're not going to save your boobs, but it will allow you to make more milk with each consecutive pregnancy. So someone who was just enough for her first pregnancy will most likely be a little bit extra her next pregnancy and beyond that.
Wow. Okay, that's actually really good to know because I've definitely heard women go, "Oh, because I've breastfed this many babies, now I'm like living the consequences and I don't feel like myself anymore." So that's really good to know that it's not breastfeeding,
Yep.
it's the pregnancy.
Yep, it's just pregnancy. Your breasts undergo those changes in the middle of pregnancy and they're going to undergo them whether you plan on breastfeeding or not.
Wow. Okay. And then so we're in the thick of solids now. She is eating a little bit more and more. I'm now feeding my baby 3 times a day. She's nine
Ooh.
months. So I know I feel like I'm either feeding or nursing her like all the
Yep.
time.
And they love snacks.
Yeah. So it's really quite the day. So can you share how breastfeeding and solids work together and how it can support development and immune resilience for the baby?
Yeah, so we used to say food before one is just for fun. And we
Mm-hmm.
don't say that anymore. It's an
Okay.
outdated term. So food is really important for babies to start getting around that 6-month mark. If your baby was premature, you go by their adjusted age, right? So if you start feeding your baby and you give them solids and they just stick their tongue out and they push the food out of their mouth, they're not ready for solids. That's called the tongue thrust reflex. And if that's still present, you see those videos of moms with the purees and they're going into the mouth and it's just all running down the baby's face. That baby's not ready for solids yet. I personally I've done both. I've done the purees and now we're doing kind of a baby led weaning situation. So the bigger chunks of food, table food only, like whatever we eat, she's eating, and she's done amazing. We've sat back and watched, like, wow, this is easy. Because being a crunchier mom, I went and got the organic produce and I made my own purees and we froze them and we got the silicone pouches and I was washing the silicone pouches and washing the blender constantly. And it's much easier to just cut off a piece of my steak and hand it to baby.
Yeah.
So much easier to do. But breast milk still it protects that gut lining, right? So as baby starts to eat, new things and strange things, your breast milk's composition changes a little bit to accommodate for whatever baby's eating to help make it more digestible. And having that breast milk in the belly with any solids allows the baby's gut to digest it fuller, so you're getting less waste and baby's getting more of the nutritional value out of the food that baby's eating. But it also just makes it easier for baby to digest, so they're not going to get an upset stomach from introducing solids.
Well, that's so good to know.
Yeah, it's more important for the food though to start to get introduced because breast milk starts to kind of baby's born with stores of milk or stores of vitamins and minerals, right? And so they don't need breast milk to be high in certain things like vitamin D. Their body has those stores. But at 6 months, those stores kind of start dwindling, and it's more important to substitute what breast milk can't do with good quality food for baby. And we call that complementary feeding, where you're introducing good, high quality solids into baby's diet and they complement the breast milk. So once baby starts eating more solids, you might notice as a pumping mom that your breast milk kind of looks thin and maybe a little clearer. And you're going to kind of go, oh no, is the quality of breast milk diminishing? It doesn't look as rich or as creamy as it once did. But that's your body recognizing that your baby doesn't need the fat content in the milk and it needs more hydration.
No, that's really interesting because I have noticed a little bit of that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool. So, what are we aiming for when we're feeding our baby solids? Like, are there specific vitamins and nutrients? I know what I've like researched, but I really want to hear from you. What are like good things to start with and for their nutrition and health too?
It's super important to start with like vitamin D rich foods and foods rich in iron, right? A lot of parents don't like broccoli, but broccoli is a really good one for babies, and babies tend to really like cooked steamed broccoli, right? And it's amazing that they know how to eat these foods. So try to get in 2 to 3 um, food groups a day. So it's nothing crazy. Like if you're going to do fruits and veggies and a meat, that's great, or a grain and fruit and veggies. Try to mix it up. They used to say to avoid high allergy foods, and now they say that we should introduce them sooner. Those are things like eggs, peanut butter, fish. The sooner babies are introduced to those things, we've learned the better they do later on. And they used to tell us like one food for one whole week or one food for 2 whole weeks before you introduce anything else. Well, you would kind of get sick of eating the same thing every day, wouldn't you? It's not recommended anymore. You can give your baby a blueberry and some meat or some fish and some peanut butter. Just pay attention to how your baby reacts to that food. And most of the time, with a food allergy, your baby's not going to react on that very first time they eat it anyway. You might notice it a couple months later. So while you're feeding baby, just stay present and aware of how baby's eating.
Yeah, that's great. Um, Does milk, like breast milk, impact risk of allergies as well, since we're like working on that gut lining, or does it have no effect?
Yeah, actually it does. Breastfeeding babies, not only does it impact their risk of it lowers their risk of food allergies, but it lowers the risk of allergies and asthma altogether by something close to 60%.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's
What are some long-term benefits of extended nursing beyond the 6 months or the 12 months like you're doing for baby and for mom?
Yeah. So for baby, extended nursing can help them. Obviously, it reduces allergens. So it reduces their risk of allergies. It reduces their risk of asthma. It reduces their risk for childhood obesity. That's that breastfeeding from 6 months and beyond. We've seen a really big impact on childhood obesity. So the more breast milk babies get, it seems to be that those babies, as they grow into toddlers, they're more aware of when their belly feels full. You know, a breastfed baby only needs to take never more than 5 ounces of breast milk, whereas a formula baby can end up taking, that 8 ounce bottle or 9 ounces. Some parents even end up feeding 10 ounces to get their baby full. Well, that stretches the belly. So the childhood obesity one is a really big one. It also increases baby's IQ. babies that are breastfed beyond 6 months, they have higher IQ scores. They also have better socioeconomic development. They're more rooted in themselves. They're more aware of how they feel in a situation, because part of breastfeeding and that nursing with a bottle, even if you're not breastfeeding at the breast, is how they're feeling comforted by mom or their caregiver. It's kind of a bonding experience. So those people are, as they get older, they're a little more regulated just in general. But for mom, it's amazing because if you breastfeed for roughly 7 years, I know that sounds like a lot, right? But if you breastfeed for 7 years, your chances of getting breast cancer are reduced by over 90%.
Whoa.
So when you hear about these, oh, we didn't have breast cancer back, when my grandma was a, no, you didn't, because your grandma had 14 kids and she well exceeded that 7 years of breastfeeding. It also protects women against postpartum depression. It protects women against ovarian cancer. And there's like 5 other cancers that it reduces your risk. The longer you breastfeed, the greater the reduction in the risk for mom, which is absolutely crazy.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. Um, Now you talked about the baby's response to breast milk, whether that be at the breast or in the bottle, and like their security and their attachment with that. Now, because you said bottle as well, I'm assuming that there's like hormones or neurotransmitters in there that are helping that rather than just like the comfort and the warmth of the breast. Could you like dive a little bit more into that?
Yeah. Yeah. So breast milk contains all sorts of things. And if your baby is worked up, you're going to make more hormones because you're regulating yourself as you're going to try to calm down this baby. So if you're feeding at breast immediately, those hormones, if you've ever noticed your baby crying and you put them right to breast and they're done, they're instantly done, or they just whimper a little bit. And the more they drink the milk, it's not just the act of nursing. There's so much in breast milk that helps baby regulate their emotions. And that's in there even if you're pumping, just the amount of it is less, right?
No, that's so cool.
So the bottle is still comforting, and they kind of have a hard time giving up that bottle. You'll notice that they don't want to take the milk in a sippy cup as well as they'll take it in the bottle because they've associated that bottle with that really good feeling.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Now that we're also in the later, I'm 9 months postpartum, and I've talked with my
Yeah.
husband where this is when people are like, wait, this is a really sweet, fun time. And you kind of start thinking of maybe baby number two, when is that going to happen, or what that looks like. And I know obviously breastfeeding can impact your cycle and your period and can prevent it from coming back for some people. It has for me. So I've been
Me
over a year and a half without any sort of period now, which is kind of crazy. But for people who are thinking about, can I continue breastfeeding while we're trying to get pregnant if my cycle is back? Or if I do get pregnant, do I have to stop breastfeeding? Can you dive a little bit more into that?
Yeah. So if you're going to do like the natural family planning method and you're not going to use an alternative type of protection, once you start feeding babies solids, you need to start tracking your body temperature and your cervical mucus. Because once you've introduced solids, you have told your body that baby's not taking in quite as much milk, right? And that little bit of reduction in milk output can sometimes trigger your period to come back. So a lot of women end up getting their period back. That's around that 6, 7, 8 month mark. And that's due to baby taking in solids and less milk, and baby's away from mom more. So you need to start paying attention because you ovulate before you get your period, and that's how you get, oh my goodness, I'm pregnant, and you didn't know it, and now you're going to have babies super close together, which I have babies that are super close together, and it's fun, but it's also a lot. Um, if you have gotten your period back and you do want to start trying to conceive, if your previous pregnancy was low risk, it's totally safe to keep breastfeeding. It might decrease your supply. We can't tell you one way or another. Some women, it does decrease your supply, and some women, it doesn't. Sometimes baby will nurse more, and that will compensate for that. Sometimes babies will reject the breast, so that's something to take into consideration. If baby still needs that breast milk and they're rejecting it based on there's more hormones in it, it tastes a little goofy. If baby's going to continue to breast or continue to deny the breast, you're going to have to look at alternative methods of feeding your baby. But if baby is 6 months old and you want to feed, your goal is to feed to 12 months, and you have your period back and you want to try to conceive, you can. It's recommended you wait a little longer so that your insides can heal fully. But if you get pregnant 6 months postpartum, chances are everything is going to go smoothly. You can conceive. Typically, halfway through your pregnancy, your breast milk will change back to colostrum. So now your baby's at a year and they're getting colostrum, and that's great. There's so many good things in colostrum, as we know. However, it is a laxative. So when baby starts taking in that colostrum, if baby's nursing frequently, they might get diarrhea. So you might have to be like, whoa, whoa, no, no more. Some babies handle it super great. Some of them end up getting diarrhea. And you can continue nursing through your birth, and you can nurse two babies at once. Your body will adjust. Just make sure that you're feeding the little baby before your big baby. So your little baby's getting enough and your big baby can take whatever's left.
Amazing. Body's incredible, but I didn't know about that laxative thing. So that's really cool.
Yes. Yes, that's what makes those babies so much.
But something that you mentioned earlier with the even famished women who are breastfeeding, their milk looks about identical to the women who have that food because the milk is taken from the stores from the women. So if you aren't eating enough
Yep.
or whatever that looks like, I should say, you can physically get pregnant, but even because you have your period, it may not be the right time because it does take a lot of time for your nutrient stores to replete. So just taking that in consideration that it's going to look different for everyone to like when their nutrient stores are back and where it might be a little bit healthier to wait a little bit. And then there's the physical component too of the pelvic floor and all those things too.
Yep. Yes, yeah. There's so much more, and just because you can doesn't mean you should. You look at
Okay.
like bone stores, like you deplete your your bones. You can tell if on bone scans that a mom has been breastfeeding because it shows as they're pulling that vitamin D and calcium from mom into the breast milk. But women that breastfeed beyond 6 months up to that 12 months, just one time, it lowers their risk for osteoporosis because that bone density comes back tenfold.
Really cool. Wow.
Super.
So, what advice do you have for our functional medicine moms listening? Uh, from coming from a lactation counselor yourself or crunchy mom yourself, what advice do you have for us moms?
Oh, goodness. My advice would be that you know your body better than anybody, and you know your baby better than anybody. You know what that looks like, and you shouldn't second guess yourself, and you shouldn't let anybody else tell you that you shouldn't extend your breastfeeding journey. Baby has teeth, don't do it. Or that baby's walking and can tell you that they want the breast. That's weird. It's something that is absolutely amazing that you're able to provide and offer that for your child. And it's not something that can be replicated by science. No matter how hard we try, we haven't gotten close to it yet. So you should be proud of yourself and confident in yourself.
Yeah. Even if you're able to breastfeed at all, even if you don't make it to that extended period of time for whatever reason,
Yep.
just getting something in is amazing, I think.
Yep. Even the little bits. When they say that every drop counts, it 100% does. So moms that mix formula and breast milk, they're setting their baby up for success. Moms that only breastfed for, the hospital stay, they gave their baby's body that protective coating in their gut lining that helped set them up for success. Even putting in the tiniest bit of effort made an impact in your baby that can't be reversed.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So, where can people find you? If they want their own consultation, want to learn more, I know you post on social media too. So, where can they find you, Amber?
Yeah. Yep. So I am on Facebook and I am on Instagram as the Mindful Milk Mama. And you can reach out through those platforms. There's a website coming eventually when I am not chasing babies quite so aggressively.
Yeah, I'm sure you have your hands
But I would
full.
be happy to help.
And do people make any sort of online consults with you, or are you just in person?
Yeah, I'm in person and I can set up video calls as well. So I've done a handful of online consults and have had really good luck with them.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited that you're able
Thank you
to
for having me.
inform us more on breastfeeding and breast milk and how that really benefits baby and mom. So thank you so much, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.
Thanks so much for listening to my podcast, Functional Medicine for Moms. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to subscribe so you never miss one, leave a quick 5-star review, and share it with your mom friends who love it too. I'm Kelly with a background as a pharmacist and training in functional medicine. I help women move past fatigue, brain fog, gut issues, and hormone struggles so they can thrive in everyday life or prepare for a healthy pregnancy. Through lab testing, personalized supplements, and functional medicine coaching, I help you feel better, faster, naturally. Want to connect more? Head over to molinmethod.com or come hang out with me on Instagram and YouTube at Functional Medicine for Moms. On my site, you can order professional grade supplements at my discount or book a free discovery call if you'd like to see how we can work together on your health. This podcast is for educational purposes only and not medical advice. Always talk to your provider before making changes to your health plan. And remember, healthy moms raise healthy families. Catch you next time. New episodes released every Wednesday.